What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Quad Shop Podcast. And as always, we are stoked to be here. We apologize for the delay. Roan was in Mexico, I was in Italy, and then we were both feeling under the weather last week. No excuses. We're back, and we're better than ever. How are we feeling?
Love that intro, my man. We're back better than ever. Excited for today's episode, and no excuses, baby. We're back. Let's go. Let's have a great episode. Great to see you. Little haircut, I see.
Yeah, little haircut for me, and I noticed a different backdrop for you. I'm just letting the viewers know if you're watching the video pod. You notice that Roan T moved into a studio apartment. No more roommate. How's that? How's that going for you?
Dude, great. Have my own space. Don't have to worry about, walking on eggshells, going to the bathroom, sharing a bathroom with another grown man. So, yeah, it's great. It's nice having my own spot. And, yeah, I think everyone who's lived alone or can appreciate that solitude and that, that peace that comes with living alone and being your own space and decorating how you want to decorate, setting it up how you want to set it up, like having everything in order. Like it's a good feeling, coming home to something that's like a steady, something steady. So
definitely. Yeah, it's funny because you're going from living with a roommate to living alone, and I'm going from living alone to living with roommates. I moved in.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it was 2 episodes ago, moved in with my brothers, and it's been great ever since. Even though I'm not really here a lot, I'm kind of like the best roommate. I just pay the rent. I'm never here, cook them like meat, but what are you going to do? So
I know, right?
We're going to have a little bit different structure for today's episode, right? So I kind of want to do a check-in, overall check-in. It's been almost like a month, okay? So why don't we do an overall check-in for you and for me, and then I want you to touch a little bit on your Mexico trip. I'll touch a little bit on my Italy trip, and then we'll dive into Buzz of the Day, which is you have it this week, and then we'll get into the chapter, and we'll wrap things up. How's that sound?
That sounds good. Do you want to start with Buzz of the Day, or do you want to go into... I think we should start with Buzz of the Day.
Let's just go Buzz of the Day. What are you sipping on first, though?
First, I got a quad shot ice mocha. Quad shot ice latte. Jesus, it's hitting like it's hitting like no one's business.
Is that from Abruzzi's or?
It's from Abruzzi's this morning. Yeah, I saw my guy Triple Shot Derek there.
Triple Shot Derek.
Yeah. I saw Triple Shot D, Big D. It's good to see him. It's the guy.
Who's Triple Shot D? He goes 3 on 16 ounce hot.
Yeah, he brings his own mug. He goes, "Hey, give me a triple."
Wow.
Straight black. But he's in finance. He's like a
black.
50-year-old local at the local watering hole that, someone I've become friends with, So I'm always looking out for my community and checking in on my guys.
Triple Shot D. Holy smokes, man. All right. Well, I got bone. I got some bone broth, turmeric ginger bone broth. I was feeling a little sick this week, so just coming off that. And I'm working here with a yerba. Shout out Snowy Owl, man. They're always hooking up the drinks, man. And
look at that, huh, kid?
This mug here was a gift to me, and the inside's actually ceramic, so we're not substituting any sort of taste with that metal coating on the inside. So we're actually ceramic on the innards, and what it does, it still is like a thermos in there. So it's I had ice in it yesterday, woke up this morning, ice is still in it. What are you gonna do? So it's a good deal, kid.
Okay.
Let's
Remind me what's in that again.
This is just straight up yerba with some local honey.
Okay, that's homemade. Okay, so It's like a pour over yerba, like onto your.
I go French press. Yep. I go 1/4 cup loose leaf into the French press, 180-degree water, pour it over, steeps for 10 minutes. People like to do it for 3 to 5 minutes, but I like it a little bit more kick. They say it gets bitter, but I don't mind the bitterness as long as it's hitting that bloodstream fast and hard, kid.
Yeah. Like a quad shot, like what I got going. I love it, dude. We buzz over here at Quad Shop Pockets, guys. If you didn't know that already, now you know, right? Come on, stay with us here.
Wake up.
Yeah, we're gonna come on, guys. Let's figure it out.
What do you
got? Quad Shot vlogs may be coming soon.
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, we'll get them in. So let's throw that out there. Go throw them a bone. But let's go with the buzz.
All right. So here's the buzz of the day, guys. And this is a quote this actually, I made it my screensaver on my phone to remind myself. And this is, I was sitting in my chair, my new place, just had some time for myself. Like we always talk, we've talked about, but just like ability to come back to yourself is extremely important, right? Not filling that with any scrolling, or even if it's just for 5 minutes, it makes a huge difference. Okay. Especially if you're go like I am and you are, just taking a little bit of time. So I was within my thoughts. I guess, let me paraphrase. I was sitting with my thoughts. I was relaxing. I was taking some time for myself at the end of the day. And I was just thinking about my life and how I wanted to live my life and where my life's going. And I came up and I wrote this down in my notes, and I feel very passionate about this quote. So guys, please tune in and hear me out here. I'm going to read the quote, and then I'm going to kind of give a little bit more information on that. So here we go. Become so angry and frustrated about resisting change and fear of judgment or jealousy of potential family members or others that you do whatever it takes to push past your limiting beliefs and reach for the life you didn't think was or is possible. It's your life, no one else's. You either do or you don't. What do you want your legacy to be?
It's a great quote. So who has that
Roan,
credit?
Baby.
That's a Roan original?
Yeah, that was my quote.
I love it. That's great, man. That's a beautiful quote.
I came up with it.
So, remember,
just
real quick, do you remember in The Mountain is You, Brianna Weiss, she said the shifting point, the tipping point is when you get filled up with that rage, and it's not what fuels you. It's it's what you need for that breakthrough. So similar to that, I just wanted to touch up on that. But so why did you curate this quote for today?
Well, I've dealt with anxiety and OCD and intrusive thoughts my whole life. And I think sometimes my mind likes to do a good job of blowing things out of proportion, like making me think that, don't do this because this person's going to think this, or they're irrational thoughts, right? And sometimes, when you go about fighting these thoughts all day, sometimes like they slip through and you're like, oh shit, like what if this is true, blah, blah, blah. So it was in one of those moments, I think I had maybe a bad day in terms of maybe my brain was all haywire. Like it just wasn't the best day, right? Like, and some days are better than others, right? We all have days like that, Aiden, right? So
definitely.
I was sitting down with myself and I was very frustrated. I was pissed off because I've done the work. We've read cover to cover, literally every single word of that book, Brianna Weiss, The Mountain is You. And I've done that. I accomplished that, and you did too. So, and it was one of those things that I had to remind myself, I'm like, I've put so much work in, and I think everyone else that's listening to this pod hopefully has put in some kind of work on themselves. Yeah, I mean, if they didn't put work on themselves, they wouldn't really be here, right? I mean, I guess
of course they are. Yeah, everyone does.
Yeah, general knowledge. Yeah. So I think this is a good reminder. I wanted to bring it to the pod for myself, and it's something that I came up with. And that, that you're not alone out there. Everyone deals with limiting beliefs and anxiety around, okay, what if you do this? How will family members react? Or and a lot of it's irrational because if you think about it, I mean, you don't know, you're projecting, right? So the best thing you can possibly do, the solution is to live your best life, do what your heart desires and you want to do, and everything else will play out. If someone gets jealous or someone is angry, then that's their problem, right? And you can deal with that when it comes across your desk. But I think the unhealthy obsession is ruminating and reminiscing and mulling over those thoughts in your head, and then that leads you to what's the consequence of that? Brianna Weiss said it best: not living your best life, not chasing your dreams because of what you think is going to happen. There's a huge consequence to it.
Not reaching your full potential.
Yeah, and I have to keep fucking reminding myself that because this is the one shot we get at this thing, man. And this is why we started this podcast, so we can kind of give hope to others. And this is why we were sitting around this past summer, and everyone asked me, Aiden, actually, it's funny, in San Diego, I've gotten some good feedback. They're like, hey, why, you have a podcast? Like, why do you start? I go, hey, honestly, like, me and my best friend were back home on the Cape, like small town where we grew up in. We spent like every day in the summer together, and we're like, hey, if we weren't surfing or, we were working out or something, we would be sitting around. We're like, all right, well, like, what do you want to do? Like, we're at that age. We're like, all right, we're out of college, or we have steady jobs, steady profession, but like we're yearning for something more, right? So I'm like, okay, that's why we started the podcast. We went for it. We were just like, okay, well, we have extra time on our hands. And I remember going to Staples and buying that fucking $60 chair and then setting up in at our their first episode, guys. If you go back and watch like episodes 1 through,
I think it's
we were
6.
at
5 or
episode 1
6.
through 6 that's 8 Bay, right?
That's
and
8
like
Bay.
The little shelf in the background, like we had your brother's Bill's houses, so like we were trying to find a stud, like use the stud finder. Grab your dad's stud finder, couldn't find it, and just kept nailing it into the sheetrock. And your brother was like, "What the fuck's going on?" And but pretty funny. But like the origin of the whole story, like we were just buzzing. It's crazy. That was last summer.
Yeah, man. And
wow.
we were sitting around, and yes, you were like, dude, I feel like there's nothing really to like give back to the community here, and this and that. And you know, we had discussed about our passion to help people become better and change people's lives and make a positive impact on the community, whether that's on a large or small scale, right? And to create such an impact, we came to the conclusion that starting a podcast would be our best foot forward, because we can sit here as serious as we want and describe all these things that have helped us, or things that we're learning, that things that we're going through, in hopes that it'll help someone else. But also we can just be me and you. We can just be ourselves. We can be silly, and hopefully that'll bring some joy and some laughter and some light into someone who's going through a hard time. So this is why we started this, and it's a beautiful beginning. And yes, you just have to go for it. You have to go for it. But I want to get back to the buzz of the day, because this is kind of where it came from. And that it wasn't from a place of worry or judgment of others. Of course there was that, getting in front of the camera for the first time for you. I had done it because I had vlogged in the past and put myself out there in the past, like, you know, made music and dropped it and put myself out there without fear of I can't say without fear of judgment, because there was always fear of judgment. And I was able to push past it, right? But it's funny that you say that. And before I move on to my point, I want to touch on something that you said that was within your buzz of the day quote that you curated, and it was the rage, right? So you wrote this frustration and the rage, right? So how are you feeling in that moment when you wrote that? Was it anger towards limiting yourself in the past because of other people's judgment, or your perceived judgment of others, or was it because of the actual judgment? Like, where did the rage come from?
I think that's a good question. I think, to clarify, I think potential is like, okay, well, if I do this, I think this person's gonna like have this perceived judgment about me. They're gonna think this, or maybe judgment. Perceived judgment. I think just kind of it all, like lumped into one. Like I was kind of thinking in general. I'm like, I had scenarios going in my head, like, well, did this person like said this last time? It's like, all right, well, if I do this, do you think they'll feel the same way? And then I started thinking, I started getting pissed off, because I was thinking, dude, I'm so much better than that. I have a huge life to live. Why am I worried about what someone else thinks or does about me? Like, and then I say it out loud now, and this is why this podcast is so healing and helpful, because we get to talk through these things, and not only for our audience but for us, right? And it's a very humbling thing. It's an amazing thing. I think about it now, I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, you know what, those were like irrational. Like, why are we I almost getting like frustrated now talking about it, because I'm like, dude, what the fuck was I doing? And it's hard, you know, you get caught up thinking about stuff, and I'm just ready to break through, bro. Right? It's been too long. I've told you this, and it's been too long just kind of, you know, sheltering myself and blah blah blah. So yeah, I think we both feel that same way, you know, and we're both ready. ready to take that leap of faith in that next chapter. And so great. I love that I brought this quote and I sat down and actually give myself some time to think.
It shows. It shows that that's from you within where you're at. And that's why we do Buzz of the Day, right? Yeah. We do the weekly checkups, right? But the Buzz of the Day is that shining star from week to week, whether it's you or me, right?
Yep.
And that's just us. That's personal. And we hope that it touches somebody else out there. But I want to touch on something that I experienced that relates to your Buzz of the Day, actually. I was in Italy, and I was sitting there, and I was out in public, and I was walking, with my girlfriend, and I forget what exactly happened, but, oh yeah. So we sat down at a restaurant, and we ordered, an appetizer, and we were going to sit there and eat do the whole meal there, right? Get a bottle of wine, appetizer, and, do the entrees and, dessert and everything. But we were looking at the menu and we were we don't like this at all. Really? We'd rather go somewhere else. Okay. So she was like, should we just leave? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I'm like, wait, I said out loud, who gives a frick? It doesn't matter. Yeah, let's just leave. So we got up. I said, hey, the appetizer is great. Paid for it. Boom, we're on our way. But there was a moment where both of us were kind of locked into this. We felt like we almost owed them something, or we'd be judged if we left, or people would be like, what? Or, you know what I mean? Just so many different avenues and routes you could take. But there's that, that fear almost. And I was laying in bed later that night, and I was thinking to myself, and I was like, dude, I'm going to be fucking dead one day. Right? I'm going to be dead one day. And it wasn't from a place of being morbid or sad or dark.
It was just a reality. It was just a wake up.
It was reality. I was like, I am going to be dead. And so is all the people I was worried about judging me. And then it started relating to so many different occasions in my life and thinking, it doesn't matter. They're worried about themselves. I'm worried about myself. But now I'm worried about them, thinking about me, and they're not even thinking about me. They're thinking about themselves. Or maybe they're thinking about me, thinking about them, right? So it's this weird thing that we do as humans. And it's so limiting. It doesn't matter. And my old boss, I've said this on the podcast before, back at the garage, Mike, he said it's a blip on the radar screen. You'll never even think about this again. You'll look back, and if you do think about it, you'll laugh. It seems like a big deal right now, but it's not. And it's not. So there is a balance between taking care, a careful approach to situations, and being conscious and meticulous and, caring about what you do, not going at it like this doesn't matter, obviously, but also keeping in mind, there is no judgment, there isn't. And that's a freeing thing. And it allows you to kind of follow that path that you're meant to be on. If you can drop in, right? And we've talked about this before, listen to your gut and trust your gut and allow those invasive thoughts to kind of drift away and, breathe through them and then drop back into that inner voice, the inner fire, follow your compass and do it without fear of judgment. You're going to go for the fucking moon and past it. You're going for the stars.
And that's what matters, because do you want to feel good at the end of the day when you lay your head on your pillow alone? You might have someone sleeping next to you, but you're alone, right? In your own head, in your own brain. you might search for, and I've been there, search for so much comfort and validation from a person next to you or family, and fill that space so you're out of your head. But at the end of the day, there's a moment where you come back to yourself and you're either happy with yourself or you're not.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the most important thing. And I keep reminding, this is a great quote. And I was sitting with myself, I'm like, what the fuck? You know? And I think you had that realization with your Italy story, right? And it's like the same, it goes along the same lines. And I think part of the reason why we're doing this and why we have the podcast, why we're real close, is we think very similarly along the same lines, right? So it's cool to hear your perspective on that you similarly recently in the last few weeks went through a situation like that. You know what I mean? So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking the same thing, you know, completely different. I guess yours was about a restaurant, but mine was just about my past or in general. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, if you really think about it and break it down, it most of the thoughts in your head, and this is a great actually segue, and I didn't even think about it before I read the chapter because I didn't know, you know, what the chapter was about. But it's a great segue into, I mean, we'll touch on that at the end, but chapter 7 was really about that voice in your head, you know? And I took a lot of, and hopefully we can bring it back to Buzz of the Day and we can tie it back in when we talk about chapter 7. But yeah, amazing.
I want to touch on one more thing before we move off of Buzz of the Day, right? And this is coming from me, right? And it's about past things that you may be ashamed about. Okay? I can look back on my past and there's things that I've done that I wish I never did. You know what I mean? Whether it was, you know, against myself or someone else. I wish I never did that. It's a terrible thing, but I can't take that back, right? So that's also, you know, fear. That's judging yourself, right? And then the act of doing something terrible to someone else, right? Now that's like, how do they view you? That's just how they view you now. You know what I mean? And you can't take that back. So another important layer to this is forgiving yourself. Okay? Forgiving yourself and forgiving other people, right? If people are sitting there and their eyes are on you and they're judging you, right? And you got to forgive them. They just don't know this information yet.
Don't know what?
They don't know this information yet. Right?
Yeah. No.
So you just have to forgive them.
Yeah.
Right? And forgiving someone for a terrible thing is really hard. Forgiving yourself for doing a terrible act is even fucking harder, I think. Especially, you know, if you got a good head on your shoulders, you're a good person, but you just made a mistake. Forgiving yourself for such a big mistake like that is a really hard thing to do, but it's a part of the healing process, right? And it's going to allow you to kind of move through this. So why I wanted to bring this up is because that's like judgment towards yourself, right? And that's stuff that we can hold inside of us, and it's going to limit us in like a crazy way. It has for me, you know? And you are deserving of forgiveness, but you got to give it to yourself and you got to give it to other people. You may not receive it. You may not receive it because you can never control somebody else's actions or how they feel, but you can forgive them for not forgiving you. It's okay. It's fine. You know?
You can forgive them for not forgiving you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a powerful tool, man. In the toolbox, right? What do we talk about? The cookie jar.
That cookie jar. You can
Roll,
pull,
baby.
You can pull.
Come on, Dean, baby. Come on, Dean, baby. Come on.
That was an amazing Buzz of the Day. I really, really appreciate you diving deep and digging and pulling that out. That was really good.
Yeah, well, I appreciate your collaboration, my man. Takes two to tango, brother. Come on.
In this case, it does. So what do you want to do? You want to get into Mexico, Italy? You want to talk about our trips?
I'll talk about Mexico.
Or do you want to talk about the book now and we can end on that on a more silly note? Let's stay serious. We're in the
zone.
7. we're in the zone here. So let's get into chapter 7. So this is, you know, I know it's been a while and we've kind of been AFK, but this is Do Hard Things, Steve Magnus, chapter 7. Could you read the title of the chapter? I don't have it written down here, but I believe it's
Hone the voice in your head.
Hone the voice in your head. And I love how it's own the voice in your head, right?
Yep.
And I love how he's not telling you to like control the voice in your head. He's just telling you to own it. That's all. This is a really good chapter. This is really probably my favorite chapter of the book so far.
Yep. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I want to pull my notes.
I want to jump like right in and get your opinion on something. He talked a lot about using like the third person and the first person pronouns, right? So it's like when you have the voice in your head and you're talking to yourself and it's like, I can do this. I can push past this. I am strong enough. He talked about the benefits of saying, Aiden can do this. Aiden can push past this. Aiden is strong enough.
Wait, can I say something? That's so funny, dude. I've been doing this and not even knowing it. Like, I'll be, like, you can imagine, you've seen me do this. Like, so I'm in the gym working out, HIIT workout. I'm like, come on, Rome, baby, come on. Like, no, see, I'm not even kidding, bro. Like, I'll do this. Like, if I'm doing a hard workout, I'll go, come on, Rome, here we go. Come on. Or like someone else will be working out next to me, like, you know, someone in my class is this guy named Craig. I call him C. I'm like, here we go, C. Let's go. Let's push. Yep. And then that honestly, that motivates me. That motivates me.
Yeah.
And I don't say, and then I don't say how I can do this. I can do this because it's like, oh. And then I don't know what. I mean, we can touch on that in the book, but we can touch on the distinction and like why third person it gives you more. What's the right word? It gives you more.
It gives you more, it's what it's doing is it's separating yourself from an inner dialogue. Okay. So, and it's creating that separation. And what that separation does is now it allows you to listen to it more. Okay. So obviously you don't want to do this in a negative way. If your goal is to motivate yourself and push yourself and, get that sixth gear, then you're going to utilize this tool. But he talked about like a trial with kids. And he said there was one group of kids that would refer to themselves in their head as I, right? And then there's another group of kids that refer to themselves as their name. But then there was a third group of kids that would refer to themselves as whoever, Superman, Spider-Man, Batman, right? He said that the most successful group on staying on task and not going to the iPad, staying on task, was the kids who referred to themselves as Batman or Superman or Spider-Man, because that is the furthest thing away from themselves. This is just recent scientific studies, right? This is new. So this is the furthest thing away from yourself, right? You use your name as a pronoun, you're getting a little bit closer. You use I, that is the most personal. So now you're using your name a little bit further. Those kids did, 50% better than the kids, whatever. And then these kids that completely separated their self-dialogue, their inner dialogue, by referring to themselves as something that they aren't, right? They succeeded the most, which is very interesting. And doing this test on kids is like, you're basically doing it without someone who isn't, thinking about, this is, a test. Like, oh my God, they're adults. They're able to think for themselves more so than a kid is. So it's like, it's pretty raw, this type of test. So it's interesting.
Yeah. I actually wrote this down, brother. I'm glad you talked about this. And that's fine. I literally do that. I'm in the gym, bro. You can imagine Roan, right?
I get going. Let's go, Roan. Come on.
Here we go. Come Roan, baby. And I'll start grunting after I'm like, here we go. And I'll like, come on, Roan, baby. Let's cook. And I'll just fucking go. And I'll go, hey, see, come on, here we go. Let me tap you in for this set. Boom. It's just electric, bro. Life is supposed to be electric, right? Mm-hmm. We bring everyone up. We buzz, dude. I gotta fly you in for a workout class here.
I'm down.
dude, you should see the community in San Diego, bro. I'm building, dude. Unreal.
Let's
The
do one
buzz
when I
is
come
so
out.
incredible. In August. That's no, dude. We're gonna do. Oh, dude. The stoke and buzz out here. It's really going up here.
I love that.
Like,
dude,
and I almost
here, it's hard, man. Everyone knows everybody, and most of the people are old as shit. No offense, but it's just a place to retire. Love you, old people and your knowledge, but
yeah. I mean, you have a few people that like get buzzing on the Cape, but it's not like
Jack at the Rail. Shout out Jack at the Rail. He buzzes hard.
Oh shit! Have you seen him?
Yeah, saw him.
No way. He's tall, right? 6'4".
No, dominant.
No.
So come on, back on track. Let's get to the chapter.
All right. No, but there's a few guys like on Cape that buzz and like I guess have somewhat community, but like I mean, Gabe's a great example. But it's hard to find like out here. It's just there's more of that to pull from, right? That's in San Diego. So, anyways, distant self-talk. Third-person self-talk removes you from the situation, creating lower levels of reactivity, right? So if you're always talking about yourself in a workout, like puts like, come on, I can do this. And then you're like, then you start thinking, wait, can I do this? Like, oh, fuck, I'm really in this. But if you say like, hey, here we go. Come on, Ron, here we go. And then it's almost like autopilot. You don't, like, I've had this happen. You don't think like you're working out. You're just like, oh, Ronan, come on. Ronan's doing this. You separate yourself and you just do it. It's like, it's hard to explain, but you did a great job explaining it. But that's just kind of a real life example of like working out. Like I do that. And it's so funny. I read this chapter. I was like, oh shit. I actually have already started doing this, but I just didn't.
And it's weird.
Like a part of, yeah.
It's really weird at first for you already do it, right? But for someone who hasn't ever done this and has actually prior to reading this wondered what's better, because I've heard little like thoughts of and ideas about this along my life, and I've heard of this before, but never really like read it in text like this. So now I'm trying to incorporate it, but it's fucking weird, and you almost feel like crazy at first. You're like, wait, no, should I be doing this? Right? So I've been practicing it, and it's like, no, don't second guess it. Remember, just keep trying it and, separate it, because it feels so separated. It's like, am I even helping myself? My goal is to help myself, right? Why am I trying to separate
but it's good though. It's good because you're not in that pain or suffering. You're separating it to another third person.
Right.
And then you're not,
And he talked about all the different voices that we have in our head. Now he listed some number and then listed the names. 7. Yeah, like listed the names of those voices, but that's just like sign. Yeah, go ahead if you got them.
Yeah, it's
so once you find them,
there's so he said there's researchers, and Steve Magnus, the author, said this, and then researchers, there are 7 subcells, right?
Yes.
Subcells. Self-protection, mate attraction, mate retention, like keeping that mate in your life, affiliation with other people, like kin care, social status, and disease avoidance, which
it makes sense, but it's just scientific. The research trying to be scientific and like official, which I get. It's true, but everyone's fucking different. Okay. And he
goes. Let him go. I like that. Let Ado go. I saw a little fire there.
But dude, okay, so he talked about like naming these different voices in your head. He talked about like naming each voice, right? And creating like, oh no, like if you have a negative voice that fucking nags at you and like tries to bring you down and fucking, we all have it, the self-destructing voice. Everyone has it. Some people it's louder, some people it's quieter. But if you have it fucking nagging, it's, oh, there goes fucking Donnie again. Donnie's fucking barking up the tree. You name that voice, and it's like, no, that's just fucking
Donnie.
That's just Donnie being fucking Donnie. Let him go. Like triple shot D. Let him cook. But you know what I mean. So you assign, right? You assign a title to that voice, so that way you're able to refer to it. All right, Rhoda just let triple shot D's personal information out, and I cut it out. So we're back now. We're back. Let's get back to the chapter. So. Did you underline anything else that jumped out at you? I could read from my notes, but I want to hear from Rowan, baby, real quick.
Thanks, Rowan, baby.
What do you got?
Pull up chapter. Yeah, so just to touch on what we just talked about to keep it full circle here and keep on track, 7 subcells, they battle in different ways for that attention. What's going to rise to the top in that present moment? What is that going to be? What emotion? What's going to take over? And that usually causes action, right? So 3 tactics.
Yeah. Touch on this.
To handle your inner feelings and emotions. You mentioned there's 3 tactics, and I will read those. Or let me get to something. Hold on, real quick.
Okay.
This is a great chapter, bro. I love I learned a lot from this chapter.
Me too. And before you go to the 3 tactics, let me just touch on something here. Before we.
There you go. No.
Okay, so when you separate yourself or your voice from yourself, right? He said it's easier to give advice to your friend than it is to yourself. And we all fucking do this. I mean, maybe not all of us, but for me, it's fucking very prevalent. I don't know about you, but for me, it's like I
always come to you for advice, bro. You give great advice. I'm like, okay, hey, I got something going on, or I need to like tell someone something that I don't want to tell my mom or something. Like I call you.
Right. And I'm able to give you that advice, right? But it's harder for me to give myself the advice that I give you. Incorporate it into your own life. Like you may have the formulated sentence and the idea and the light bulb, but how are you going to incorporate it, right? Because that's what comes next. It's actually taking that advice. So me giving you this advice and say, take it, is much easier than giving myself the advice and trying to incorporate it. And I really liked this because that is like proof of the separation, right? I'm giving advice to you. And that's what he's saying this voice is doing. Fucking, I'm going to name my like positive, determined voice. I'm going to name it just AT, right? AT's giving advice to me right now. I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
Right? So you separate that. So I really did like that. So let's get into the 3 tactics because this is ways people can incorporate it.
Let's get into 3 tactics, but real quick, 7 subcells. They battle in different ways to whatever emotion rises to top to take action. The overall gist of this chapter, I want everyone to listen to this real quick, and then we can get into some more specifics. But you have 7 subcells of your brain, and which one's pulling and pushing that given moment. Everyone's different based on the circumstances. True toughness is about navigating those subcells. Okay, I want to be clear on that. Paying attention to the voices in our head, and really that's what Magnus is getting at here, is that we all have subcells, some of them in different areas based on the circumstances. Everything, like, so many different things can go into take into consideration. About those 7 subcells, it's about navigating them.
Yes. And right? he said that it's not about suppressing one voice more than the other, because each voice plays its own role and is just as important as the other. Okay?
It's a common theme, dude. We talked about this in Brianna Weiss. Meditation. Don't push those thoughts. Let them come. That's the form of meditation, making your mind still. It might be negative thoughts, but so what?
Mm-hmm.
Be still. Be calm. Know that you can control your reaction. You might have negative thoughts, but control your reaction. Mm-hmm. Control how you handle it.
There's something there. There's something there.
There's some. Yeah. So the 3 tactics to handle your inner feelings and emotions.
Yep.
Change your voice. Inside versus outside. That's number 1. Know what voice to listen to, positive or negative. Decrease the bond from me to she. So all about navigation here. Okay. And then they talked about change your voice. So inside versus outside.
Let's read that.
Gave a few examples. He talked about Vygotsky's theory of cognitive development.
Yep.
Basically theorized as we develop, this style of external speech slowly shifts to internal.
Right. So when you're a kid, you're saying ball, or whatever. You're speaking out loud what you are doing or what you want to do, and it's all external, right? So then that shifts internal. So now we're having these conversations rather than outward. We're having these conversations inward. I just wanted to clarify. Continue.
the similarities, right, between the two, noting how you said children use abbreviations and fragments just as our adult inner voice tends to. In addition, there's a dialogue quality to both, right? So it's an internal conversation that takes place. And if his theory is correct, right, it's just a theory, but he's a profound psychologist. Then our inner voice should serve the same role as our external voice does for a toddler. So self-regulation, direction toward action, right? There's much to be learned. So inside versus outside voice, they should come together. And they should regulate kind of your actions and your emotions. Really, that's the gist of the basically reverting to childlike approach, right? So if you take the internal and make it external, watch any skill-based sport and you're bound to see a player talking to himself, right? So they go together. So it's kind of interesting based on what we previously thought, talking to yourself in the third person. I don't know if it's a confliction in theory, but basically this is one of the forms of action, right? It's change your voice inside versus outside. So he basically mentioned sometimes this external self-talk is instructional, other times motivational, but it serves as the same function that our internal self-talk does. And it basically just talks about it, had a few examples of that about pro athletes. Like, if you're under your breath or if I'm hitting, right, if I'm off the plate in college, I'd be mumbling under my breath, like, let's go, come on.
Smoke this one, like, hey, fucking
yeah, like I'll be talking to myself in third person. I'm like, yeah, and that I've been there. I'm like, hey, come on, bro, here we go, come on, and like that helps. So he touched on that. Do you have anything to add to that one, or?
No, I mean, in yoga this morning, I utilized it. You know what I mean? I noticed like me traveling away from my breath. So, in moments of physical movement, but not connecting my breath as well as I would like to, I'd say, Aiden, come back to your breath. Come on, Aiden, come back to your breath.
Did you actually do that?
Link the move. Yeah.
How'd it feel?
Great. I didn't say it out loud. I said it in my head.
No, but yeah, internal.
But both is what he's saying is both serve the same purpose, right? So when you're in the gym and you're out loud going, come on, Ron. All right, see, dial in. Let's go. And you just, it's the same purpose. Yeah. So it's good.
Yeah.
What about number two?
Know what voice to listen to, positive or negative. And this is about navigation, right? We all have negative thoughts. You'd be lying if you said you didn't. And humans, true toughness is, how do you navigate those? How do you handle them, right? And that separates a lot of mentally strong people between mentally weak, right? Positive self-talk can actually be detrimental if you have low self-esteem, because you're not going to believe it in the first place at all. If you have low self-esteem, you're not going to believe anything. So, but it does benefit if you have high self-esteem, and positive self-talk helps a lot. So that was the second one.
So if you have low self-esteem, what could someone do to help themselves?
If you have low self-esteem, what can you do to help yourself?
If positive self-talk doesn't help, it's actually detrimental. What could someone with low self-esteem do to help themselves? Not talk negative to themselves, right?
I would personally say, don't talk negative to yourself, but kind of get angry and just be in the moment and do it. And I know that's easier said than done, but I would say work on that self-esteem. And
the self-esteem is the issue, and that's what needs to be fixed. So
yeah, and I want to uncover where that's coming from. Is that an underlying condition that maybe your parents didn't love you growing up? You had a hard childhood. Like, you have to unpack that. Whether that's going to see a psychologist, a therapist, like, that's still going to be there forever unless you kind of forgive and remediate and take an action plan of working through that. Right? It can be challenging, but if you have low self-esteem, you don't need you can. You'll be, positive, let's go. Like that, hell yeah, sure. Like, that's not bad to think that way, but it's not going to like improve your performance in a competitive atmosphere, right? So,
okay.
So what's
3?
Number 3 is decrease the bond from me to she.
Yep.
Okay. Long story short here, Ada.
Okay.
Let me just pull up what I like. psychologists have used the same paradigm of self-immersed. I can do this versus self-distance. Jim, you can do this. Self-talk in a variety of stressful situations with adults. From trying to impress a love interest to giving a public speech to handling anxiety over an Ebola outbreak, the results held. When put through stressful situations, if we use self-distance in our dialogue, it not only helps decrease anxiety, just like the gym exercise, shame, and rumination, but also leads to a better overall performance. So this is a common theme in the book. If you talk to yourself in third person, if you positive self-talk through third person, like, hey, shift from me to he or she, like, let's go. Come on, Ronan. It leads to better overall performance. So this is something that I've already been implementing. I didn't even know that this is actually beneficial, but I noticed it gave me a spark in the gym and helped me push through workouts. I'm like, hey, come on, Ro, here we go.
Yeah.
So this is something that I'm going to keep incorporating. And I think it is a big takeaway from this book and for our listeners that, hey, start talking to yourself in the third person. Like, hey, come on, Ro, you got this.
Now, I just want to say it, try it, right? And it's going to feel weird at first, especially if you don't do it, just like it does for me. But yes, you do notice the benefits the more you start to, incorporate it and believe in it, right? Believe in the benefits, because that's a big part of the battle. Yes. I think we've covered a lot of this chapter. I want to wrap it up with a couple key takeaways from this chapter. So if there's anything specific that you really liked, so I just want to clarify or add something, I guess, to kind of solidify everything together. And what you're doing is you're changing your perspective, right? So your perspective is becoming a lot less narrow. Me, I, that's very narrow. That's tunnel vision, right? It's very personal. And you're changing your perspective and you're making it less personal and you're broadening that perspective and you're separating that voice. So I just wanted to throw that in there. What it is it's a perspective change and you're allowing yourself that space in between. Do you have any key takeaways from this chapter that you want to finish on, or do you feel like we covered everything?
Key takeaways. Here we go. You ready?
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to go back to something that we didn't touch on yet. The first part of the chapter. He talked about Callahan.
Right.
Control. Yes, his voyage across the ocean. He got stranded on the ocean.
Oh, yeah, because that's yeah.
Yes, so he controlled his mind. So he survived weeks on the Atlantic Ocean alone. But the book, it almost read like he had crewmates, he had different people on the boat with him, like they survived, like they rationed, they grabbed everything they could on a shipwreck. But he was talking about his rational self, his physical self, and an emotional self. He divided his mind into different characters for him to stay alive and get through it. So, which was pretty impressive.
Yes.
And he was able to use different parts of his mind and divide his mind to different, a rational, physical, and an emotional self. And he would talk about his crew members like they were other people, but it was really himself. So he switched on to the actual different pieces of his brain that needed to work in that moment. And it's a survival tactic. It's amazing, and I think I totally understand where the whole chapter is coming from, because that example is what that third person is. It's talking to yourself in third person. You switch into this mode. You go, Ronan, let's fucking go.
Right. And then there's different voices, right? So when you're reading this, you're under the impression that there's a decent amount of crew members and he is the captain of this ship. But what it actually was, what the real case was he was on a solo sail mission to circumnavigate the globe, I believe. Don't quote me on that. So when you're reading it, you're under the impression that he's sailing this big ship with a bunch of crew members. The ship is sinking and they need to abandon ship and get on a life vessel or whatever they call them. You know what I'm talking about. The little ship.
The raft.
The raft. Yeah. So then you're reading it and
let me get one in.
Yep.
Torch bucket.
So you're reading it and it's like, Captain, please, more rations. And he's like, no more rations. we have to stick to this certain amount. And then they're like, Captain, please, more water. And he's like, no. Okay, we'll make one exception. After they keep asking, Captain, please, more water. He goes, only the desalinated salt water, but not the rainwater. Stick to the rations. Stick to the rations. So you're under the impression that he's, guiding a massive group of these people through rationing food and water as they try and, navigate their way to safety or land or something, because no one's coming for them. But then you come to the conclusion after finishing, the book, or in our case, this little brief paragraph, that it's just him. And all of these different voices in his head were things that he switched on, like you said. So now he's talking to himself, and each thing has its own purpose, its own use, its own voice. And the captain was the one that held strong and steadied those rations. So it was interesting. It was very cool. I'm glad that you brought that up, and I can't believe I forgot to bring it up. So thank you. Yeah. We're at like almost an hour, and I know we wanted to talk about our trips. Why don't we wrap up the chapter there? That was definitely my favorite chapter of the book so far. I'm glad that things are starting to get spicy. You know what I mean? I like it a lot.
I have a proposition. I think this is a fantastic episode. Okay. Absolutely fantastic. Do you want to table this and cover our trips on next week's pod?
Nope. I just want you to give me one moment of your trip that was your favorite moment of the entire trip. Your favorite moment of the whole trip, and I'll give you my favorite moment of my whole trip.
My favorite moment from
yeah, little story time.
My favorite moment from the trip was, I'll show a picture on the screen, was when I parked my truck. All locals down there, like not a lot of Americans. There's a few. I guess there's a few, like in Rosarito. So we were about to surf. We backed into this parking lot. Everyone was like looking at us like, what are these people doing? Like, we backed down this dirt road, and it's on this. There's a little local family like doing fish tacos because it's known down there for fish. And I parked the truck. We started to get our boards out, and then we were like talking for a little bit, and then I didn't realize. Then I looked, and I posted this on my Instagram story, but like I almost felt like they were just like guarding the truck, and like they were my little guardian angels. But the family that like ran the fish taco spot, they had 3 dogs, and they all like were under my truck, and they're just like sleeping under my truck, and like almost like guarding my truck. And I'll show you a picture. And that was honestly my favorite moment. That was my favorite moment.
Oh, that's so cool.
But if you see, and like I don't know, that's what I feel most connected to in animals. I have a huge connection with animals, as you know.
Yeah.
And so do you. So yeah, I don't know. That was like the most wholesome, like warmest part of the trip for me, to be completely honest. But yeah, it was just a good vibe. Those dogs were super cute. And here's another. Oh shit. But the surf was great.
Yeah. Look at him.
But no, the Airbnb was amazing. The surf was great. The weather was great. The water was nice. Like it was cool down there. I recommend going down there. Just stay on your toes and don't get any shit. Right.
Right. Be respectful, of course.
Yeah, but surfed a ton. The overall trip was great. The guys who went down there with were great. Yeah, I'm glad I did it, man. It was an awesome strike mission that. Yeah, the waves were firing. You would have had a fucking blast. You would have been ripping.
One day, man. I'll be out there.
It would have been. Yeah,
we'll go strike.
You would have been backside. It would have been backside for you, but you would have been doing wraps and huge turns and like Hummer on his red 6 foot backside.
Okay. All right. So my favorite part.
Let me add in Hummer. Jesus.
One of my favorite parts of the Italy trip was I think it was our 3rd day there. We were walking down. So we were staying in this little town in Cinque Terre, Italy. And it was like a 5-minute walk to the beach, right? So it was, through the town, the walk. And then it was this very steep staircase down into a little cove on the Mediterranean Sea that we were staying on. So we're on the northwest coast. It was beautiful. So we're traversing down these steps to our little cove because we wanted to just have a nice morning by the beaches. We just had breakfast. You posted
that cove on your story.
I did. So we just had breakfast and we were walking down the stairs, and there's this guy behind us with his a dog on his shoulders, right? So the stomach's on his neck and 2 legs on either shoulder. And he's just
fucking
dude, this guy was serenading. He was singing for himself, but he was serenading us with this Italian like opera almost. And he had an amazing voice. And he's just walking down the stairs, 10 feet behind us as we go down with this dog. And we get down, we set up on our little rock that we, kind of made our little home while we were there. This guy puts his dog down on the boat ramp and then jumps in the water, and he swims across to this jagged cliff that I had been eyeing because I'm an adrenaline junkie, and I'm like, I think I could jump that. And I went and scoped the depth out, and I'm like, I definitely could jump that. It's just how would I get up,
bro.
right? So
dude, I would have been right there with you,
dude. This guy, he starts like bouldering, which is like free climbing, soloing up, this cliff face, right? And I'm watching him. He disappears behind the rock a little bit, climbs up and over to the highest point, and then climbs a little bit down, scopes out an area, and he's looking at like landing zones for probably about 10 minutes. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put on my flippers and my goggles. I'm going to swim across, and I'm going to look. You
brought flippers and goggles?
Yeah. And I'm going to look down, and I'm going to point, jump here, right? Because I don't know if he had done this jump before, but I was like, I'm going to go spot his landing, right? So I swam over, went down, said, jump right here, gave him the thumbs up, gave me the thumbs up, and then he jumped, right? So he jumped, gave him a knuckle.
I would have been right there with the boys, bro.
I gave him knuckles. He was Italian. His English was pretty decent, so we talked a little bit, and then he's like, come on, come jump. So
let's go. And you jumped.
I'm climbing, dude. I climb up. I get past the first little hump, and then the second face, though, dude, it was probably like 20 feet of like bouldering, but like there's nothing but like little grab-ons and cracks and stuff, and you're wet too, so you're kind of on the rock slipping. And I get like halfway up it, so I'm probably like 10, 15 feet up, and I'm looking down, and if I fell, it's not like I'd go into like the water. I'd just hit fucking rock and then like roll into the water onto more shallow rock, right? So
when are we going on a trip next? When are we going to Hawaii again?
I'm confident in my climbing ability, but in that moment I was very nervous, and like he had already made it up to the top, and I'm looking at him, and he's like, come on, like you can do this. He's like, just 5 more feet, whatever. So I'm like, all right. It's like, shit. So I climb up, right? I make it to the top. Boom. Now I'm at the highest point. But now I have to go on the other face, climb down and across. So I'm on like this cliff face, right? And it's just straight down, right? And there's only like the little veins that you can grab onto and little hooks and, grabbing points and for your feet. And I'm straight up against the rock, just holding myself. Moving across.
Dude, the adrenaline's sick on that, huh, bro?
And then we got to this little point where it like comes out like that, and we could both stand, right? And at this point, we already knew where to jump. So he jumps, and then I jump, and the jump was awesome. I give him knuckles. He wanted me to do it again. I said, no, that's it for me. One and done. I swim back to my rock. I'm chilling. We're both there just chilling. About an hour later, dude, we see him climb up again, but he goes way up past, and he's, holding on, and he's like grabbing something and like spitting on it and like rubbing on his pants and looking at it and then coming back down. He comes back down, jumps again, swims over to our rock, and then just gives me like this crystal that he got from a vein in the rock. It was like this.
Dude, don't you love that shit?
It was like this perfectly clear, like quartz crystal, or maybe, I don't know. It looked like, it was beautiful. And he had gotten it from way up in a vein on the cliff that he climbed up to. And it was super dope. Guy was, never saw him again, but really cool guy. Nice meeting him. Awesome connection. Glad I jumped. And the crystal,
those are the moments, dude.
Yeah, I still have the crystal. So that was my favorite part of the trip. It was awesome. I'm glad I went and spotted his landing. You know what I mean?
Fucking go.
But yeah, dude, it was a really, really great trip. Recommend Italy to anyone. It was beautiful, especially Cinque Terre.
I was just thinking about our cross-country road trip, bro, and how much fun we had. Dude, like the adventures we went on, bro, that's what it's about. Like, I think you and I do. We both do the adrenaline, bro, like the Utah jump.
Yep. That Utah jump was fun. We were getting everyone fired up.
Dude, we just found it's fun traveling with you. We just find like we find fun shit to do. Like we find like the best spots to go. Like it's like I'm looking forward to many more, brother.
We will have many, many more. And today was a great podcast. I appreciate you showing up, and the buzz today was awesome. All your little bits and info and perspectives, I love them very much. So always appreciate you, my guy.
Keep buzzing, keep talking to yourself in the third person, getting people fired up, creating that community, creating that energy. That's what life's about.
Yes, sir.
Okay, what's your phrase? Who gives a frick?
Who gives a frick? All right. Love you guys. Appreciate you. This is Squad Shot Podcast signing off. We'll catch you next week.
Over now.
Stay stoked.